Welcome to AI News in 10, your top AI and tech news podcast in about 10 minutes. AI tech is amazing and is changing the world fast. For example, this entire podcast is curated and generated by AI using my and my kids' cloned voices. It's Tuesday, April 21st, 2026, and we've got a packed show. Leadership shakeups, workforce upskilling, cybersecurity, big iron infrastructure, and a flagship phone launch. Here's what's ahead. Apple confirms a historic CEO transition as Tim Cook moves upstairs and hardware chief John Ternus takes the helm. Microsoft teams up with construction unions to train millions for the AI data center build-out. A fresh breach at Vercel spotlights the risks of plugging third-party AI tools into corporate stacks. Data Center World 2026 puts NVIDIA, Google, and Oracle on stage to talk scale and power for AI, and OPPO's Find X9 Ultra enters its global launch window with a heavy AI camera story. Let's dive in. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Need elite developers fast? Elite Coders connects you with rigorously vetted senior engineers in 24 to 48 hours. Staff augmentation, dedicated teams, or full project delivery, we've got you covered. Visit elitecoders.co to get started today.
Now, let's dive into today's stories. Story 1. Apple's handoff at the top. Apple kicked off the week with one of its biggest leadership moves in a decade. Tim Cook will step down as CEO on September 1st, becoming executive chairman, while John Ternus, Apple's longtime senior vice president of hardware engineering, steps in as CEO. In Apple's statement, Cook called leading the company the greatest privilege of my life. The board will rearrange to accommodate the shift. This marks the end of a 15-year CEO run that added more than $3.6 trillion in market value, largely on the strength of iPhone, Watch, and AirPods, while Apple built its next wave of devices and services. Coverage overnight suggests investors took the news in stride, with little immediate volatility, a sign Wall Street had Ternus pegged as the heir apparent, according to the Associated Press and other outlets. Why it matters for AI and the road to WWDC, Ternus is hardware first. Apple's near-term path to AI will likely be deeply integrated into silicon, sensors, and on-device models, where privacy and power efficiency lead the story. The timing gives Apple a clean runway to frame whatever it reveals at WWDC in June under its next CEO. Story 2. Microsoft hires America via unions for the AI build-out. This morning, Microsoft announced a new partnership with NABTU, North America's building trades unions, to offer free AI literacy courses and industry-recognized credentials to millions of skilled craft professionals. President Brad Smith also said local moratorium fights on data centers haven't halted growth, but they have pushed the company to deepen community engagement around siting, energy, and jobs. If you follow the tug-of-war over AI infrastructure, land, power, water, and labor, this is a notable turn. Tech leaning into union partnerships to secure the talent pipeline for the next wave of high-density facilities. Reporting from Axios reinforces the scale of the effort. The takeaway, as AI moves from pilot projects to production, the most valuable skills aren't just Python and PyTorch. They're electricians, ironworkers, pipe fitters, and fiber techs who can stand up megawatts of reliable capacity fast. Expect more cross-industry credentialing like this, and more bargaining over safety, wages, and shift patterns as 24/7 sites come online. Story 3. Vercel's breach, an OAuth wake-up call for AI toolchains. Over the weekend and into Monday, app hosting platform Vercel disclosed that attackers accessed certain internal systems after compromising a third-party AI tool with broad OAuth permissions into a Vercel employee's Google Workspace. A threat actor advertised data for $2 million, invoking the shiny hunter's name. That group has distanced itself. Vercel says there's no evidence its NPM packages were tampered with. The company says forensics are ongoing, with customer notifications as needed and guidance to rotate potentially exposed environment variables. Bottom line, the entry point wasn't a 0-day in Vercel, it was a trusted SaaS app with expansive scopes. That's a classic supply chain pattern, now supercharged by AI add-ons that ask for read-everything access. TechCrunch first reported the details. What to do if you run a modern stack. Audit OAuth scopes for any AI assistance or logging and analysis tools connected to email, docs, repos, or CI and CD pipelines. Enforce least privilege. mandate SSO and hardware security keys, and simulate vendor compromise in your tabletop exercises. One more thing, treat non-sensitive environment variables as if they're sensitive, because attackers can often chain them into useful pivots. Before we continue, here's a quick message from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT, but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values, whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at familygpt.chat. That's FAMILYGPT.chat.
All right, let's get back to it. Story 4. AI infrastructure takes the stage at Data Center World 2026. Today's opening programming at Data Center World spotlights NVIDIA, Google, Oracle, and others tackling the practical constraints of the AI era: power, cooling, fiber, and land. Organizers are leaning into the theme, unprecedented infrastructure and power demands, with keynotes and tracks that read like a to-do list for hyperscalers and newcomers alike. The story behind the story, the energy question, is now board-level strategy. Expect updates on high-density racks, next-gen optical interconnects, and creative power procurement. From long-term power purchase agreements and behind-the-meter generation to demand response and flexible loads that help keep bills lower for communities. Yahoo Finance has the preview. If you're watching for market signals, keep an ear out for multi-source networking standards, liquid cooling reference designs, and case studies that connect density per rack with cost per token or per end-to-end AI task. Translation: how infrastructure choices translate to AI unit economics. Story 5. OPPO's Find X9 Ultra launch, AI optics in focus. OPPO's Find X9 Ultra gets its global debut today, capping weeks of teasers about a Hasselblad-tuned camera system and computational photography upgrades. Regional rollouts will follow. Early specs point to a flagship sensor stack, ambitious telephoto, and, importantly, on-device AI features for low light, zoom stabilization, and semantic scene detection. That's the broader smartphone trend for 2026. AI-assisted capture and edit pipelines that aim to make every shot feel pro, even in tricky conditions. Money Control and others flag the date. What to watch as reviews land, whether OPPO's tuning avoids over-smoothing faces, how stable its AI zoom feels versus Google and Samsung, and whether its power management keeps those models humming without cooking your palm. Quick reality check, what we're not repeating. We're steering clear of topics we covered in the last few days: Hannover Messe's industrial AI blitz, Google Cloud Next's early agentic cloud teasers, and Meta's silicon and GPU sourcing news. Those were your April 16 through 20 headlines. Today's picks bring fresh angles: leadership, labor, security, infrastructure, and devices. Recap. On this April 21st, Apple formalizes its next era with John Ternus stepping in on September 1st. Microsoft links arms with the building trades to scale AI-era jobs. Vercel's breach is a timely reminder to sandbox those eager AI integrations. Data Center World surfaces the hard choices around power and density. And OPPO's Find X9 Ultra keeps the AI camera race hot. We'll keep tracking what breaks next, especially any late-day earnings or event reveals. See you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. And a quick disclaimer, this podcast was generated and curated by AI using my and my kids' cloned voices. If you want to know how I do it or want to do something similar, reach out to me at emad@ainews in 10.com. That's AI News in 10.com. See you all tomorrow.